Hey, yo, it's me, Pops Van Marmalade, and you're watching the Comics-Related Madness Network. Uh-huh. So come get some. CromCon.
Hey, we want to shout out to our sponsors, Daytona Beach Comic Con. If you are a fan of comic books, if you're a fan of comic book conventions, and if you like meeting comic book creators and getting comics and comic-related stuff, then you need to make your plans to attend Daytona Beach Comic Con. This year's show is September 7th and 8th. Silverline will be there, so you should make your plans to be there too. We'll see you there. If you like comics and find yourself in the Orlando, Florida area, doesn't everyone come to Orlando at some point in time to see the House of Mouse? But when you're here, you need to make it a point to visit Coliseum of Comics, especially the one on East Colonial Drive. They carry Silverline Comics, even a limited edition Coliseum of Comics version of our comics. So, when you go, be sure to ask for Silverline Comics and tell them we sent you. OCD stands for Orlando Collector Deviants. OCD, Steve and Trish, they're a family of geeks who promote geek things, particularly those around the Orlando, Florida area. They're big supporters of Silverline, and we think you should be supporters of theirs too. Go give them some love. If you are an independent comic book maker and you need to get your independent comics made, you need to look no further than Kablam Digital Printing. They print our books, and they do a bang-up job. They're not only trusted by Silverline, but many, many independent comic book makers. Head on over to kablam.com and see for yourself just how easy it is to have your comic printed by them. And tell them Silverline sent you.
Hi, this is Tim TK, host of That Silverline Show on Tuesday. Join us at 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific every Tuesday night as we discuss pop culture and the joys of making comics.
Hi, I'm Barb Kilber, co-host of Silverline's Wednesday Wham. Join us each Wednesday night as we discuss comics, literature, movies, and anything else that may catch our attention.
I'm Roland Mann, and I host Silverline's Silver Sunday. Join me every Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern as we make mine Silverline.
Welcome to Silverline Silver Sunday. This Sunday, August the 18th, 2024. I am your host. I am Roland Mann, and I am excited to be here tonight because we're going to have a fun conversation about plot or character. With me, as always, is Mr. is the character himself, Mr. Tom Mason.
I've cast my vote already. Hi, everyone.
And also joining us as usual is Mr. Thomas Flormani Jr., who says, just ask him and he'll make something up.
That's right. I'll just make it up as I go. They call me a pantser, right? I just make it up as I go.
Tommy is a little bit like Soupy Sales. You remember from Hollywood Squares, right? Every time they introduced themselves, he always had something different and unusual. Both you Toms are.
Anyway,
I know.
I'll be unusual and Tommy can be different.
And last but not least, Mr. Mike W. Belcher, that man in the mask guy. What's up, Mike?
Howdy.
So this is going to be a fun night tonight. I'm looking forward to this. I listened to, originally, for those of you in the audience, you did not know this, but I'm going to tell you, we were originally going to talk about writer's block, but Wednesday did such a good job covering it on Wednesday that I decided we'll put ours off for a couple of weeks. But we're still going to talk to it because I have much like Mr. Mason's opinions. I have strong opinions on writer's block. So
I had very strong opinions.
You did. and the funny thing about it is, all right, so I have a long drive to work now these days, and so I find that
when I work it out.
What's that?
You got plenty of time to work out your problems.
Well, it's funny because I'll put on the stream, because Tuesdays and Wednesdays, if I don't get to listen to them live, I'll put on the stream. And I'm driving and I find myself talking to the stream. That's right. Oh, come on, you know better than that. Why did you say that? Right? And of course they can't hear me, but I do find myself talking to the stream.
You do that at football games too, though, don't you?
Yeah, well, I do that at football games. Also, you can see I got a foam finger right there. So yeah, I could probably reach it if I wanted to.
It's almost time for the season to start, you know.
It is, and I got to tell you, my son is so ready. We've got tickets to one game already, and we're contemplating tickets to a second game. So our problem where we're located now is just we're so far away from all of the games that the driving and that stuff is just hard. So,
there's a high school there in town.
Yeah, that's not the same though. Yeah, that's not the same as these guys, right?
No, I mean that all those guys are as high school plus.
Yeah, Yeah, you haven't been following the news now. You know they get paid now.
It's still college.
College guys get paid.
Me and Tommy, I think, might be NFL guys.
Yeah.
I've never had college.
Yeah, NFL not for
amateurs.
Silverline team up number 2 completely fulfilled. There might be 2 packages that are still in the postal system. I haven't checked our tracking lately, but it's completely fulfilled. We're anxious to hear what you guys have to say. So drop us a line and let us know after you've read it. We thrive on your comments. And so we want those, please. Divinity number 4 should be we're finalizing some corrections, and the editorial pages should be off to the printer this week. Fingers crossed. I don't foresee any problems. There we go. Pops says, "Hey yo, what's up, Pops? Good to see you here." And also, Geekmen, Master of the Thunder Nerd says, "How's it going, y'all? What is up?" Thank you guys for swinging by and hanging out. Absolutely, yep. Mike and I were talking. Go ahead.
Sorry, Thunder Nerds is such a great name, though. I wish I'd thought of it. You know.
Yes, it really is. But here's another teacher brag on me. Geekman Master of the Thunder Nerds is also a former student of mine.
Oh, there you go.
So, yep.
Well, I give him a grade A for the name.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. So Mike and I were talking about just before we started, and we're about 95% sure that the next campaign will be Team Beetle number 3, which wraps up that series. So hopefully we'll know something within the next 7 days as to what the next one will be. So
because then he becomes Adult Beetle.
Well, then he becomes Blue Beetle, right? Yeah. Oops. No, we can't say that, can we?
No.
Who has the beep? Here we go. He says, "Indeed, I am a former student. Roland is the man." Pun intended.
We got at the printers is the new diamond.
Yep, the diamond.
We got the files for that, so we should start going to print.
That would be Kalis number 4.
Right?
Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
Ooh, the wrap up.
Yep. So be the final issue of that one. And for those of you who are following, Kalis number 3, the second arc, I think I talked to Brent a couple of weeks ago, and I think they're moving along pretty good on that one. So we'll probably see that one crowdfunded maybe not before the end of the year, but if not the end of the year, then maybe early in 25. Dead gum, is it 25 already?
Oh, no.
Where does the time go?
Man. So yeah, I know we talked about Daytona Beach Comic Con on the intro, but we are less than a month away now. So you guys need to make your plans for Daytona Beach Comic Con, September 7th and 8th. We're gonna have a great time there. Always a good show. It is a comic show. So for those of you who like comic books, you need to plan to go. Yeah. Go on over to Facebook and follow and like that page.
It's a 2-day show.
So it is a 2-day show. Yep. So,
and who from Silverline will be there?
So from Silverline, we're going to be me and Tommy and Haley Martin and Jose Fuentes and Brent Larson will be there one day. I think he's Saturday only.
Yeah.
And John Crowther will be there, the Team Beetle writer.
BJ
will be there. The boss.
Keeping an eye on the money.
Yeah, absolutely. Boy, I feel like I'm missing somebody. Who am I missing? Haley? I got Haley.
Friends of Silverline, folks. We got Jeff's going to be there.
Yeah, that's right. Jeff Whiting, who has apparently come out of second retirement and is working working on a comic again.
You're looking at the floor plan. He's right across from us, so that'll be kind of cool. I'll throw paper airplanes at him all day.
Yeah, I was gonna say we'll be able to throw spitwads at him then.
Yeah,
I always liked his stuff.
Oh, same here. Yeah, in fact, I'm not ashamed to say it. When several years ago when we first got things kicking up, I asked Jeff, "Hey man, come work with us," and he was this close, I think, but he was doing working on Shanghai at the time, and
right.
I think that's when he decided he was going to take a break from comics.
Yeah.
So
I'm glad he's back.
Yeah, me too. I'm
good artist.
Yes, absolutely.
And he's one of those guys where, I mean, I knew him originally as an inker.
Yep.
And I thought, well, that guy's a really good inker. And then I saw his pencil work that he was inking of himself, and I thought, because usually you don't see necessarily you don't always see a guy who starts out as an inker and then becomes a great penciler, or vice versa. And so he can do both, and that's really impressive.
Yeah. I talked to him some about that before, and he said he doesn't mind penciling. His problem, and I'm speaking for him because he's not here, but the thing he didn't like was that he was slow. He felt like he was too slow with pencils, and so I guess that's why he inked much. But yeah, I think he's got a good pencil look as well. But yeah, he's a phenomenal inker.
Also, he's got some great drone footage.
Yes, he does. Yeah, he's gotten it. He and Sergio Cariello are both into
they both do
the drones. Yeah. I think Sergio might be there at Daytona Beach as well.
Yeah, that last show I did where I sat next to him, he talked to me about drones and virtual reality headsets, the whole show.
He's very techie.
And he's going, you're going to go to the Apple store and try on their new headset things. And I know it's $5,000, but go get one. I'm like,
right,
it's worth it.
I think I'd rather put that money down on a car, but okay.
Right. Geekman says, I need an artist. LOL. Yeah. Geekman, remember what I talked about in the class? And maybe you guys can either agree or disagree with this statement, but generally towards the end of class, I tell them, okay, now that you've gone all this stuff, I'm going to tell you, there's never been an easier time to make comics. The single hardest thing as a writer to make a comic book today is to find an artist.
Yes, that's correct.
That'll work with you. Yep.
Yes.
And we also talked about this on the Wednesday show too, is that a lot of writers who are looking for an artist, the writer always goes and says, listen, I got a 300 issue thing. It's 14,000 pages, and I need an artist, and we'll split the profits. So it's like, dude, no, scale that down.
And I don't want any input from you.
Right. If you're just starting out and you're a new writer and you're looking for a new artist, and you just start with a small project.
Yes. Yeah, and you guys need to work on something together. Otherwise, he's going to lose interest, or he or she is going to lose interest.
Save your epic. Get some small victories.
Absolutely. Cassisi says, so true. What's up, Cassisi? Good to hear from you. Yeah, absolutely. You gotta start something smaller. I mean, you could get away with it maybe if you're if you got a 20-year resume. You might be able to get away with doing something larger like that. But yeah, starting off, you're not gonna talk anybody into jumping into your project in 300 pages long. You gotta start with something smaller.
Especially if there's little to no money. Yeah.
Right.
Yes. Right.
Yeah. Right off the bat. Yeah.
People got to eat. People got to eat. Spend their time making money.
That's right. Yeah. So it's talking about making comics. Today we're going to talk about character or plot, which is the most important to a story. And I'm not going to start with Tom.
No, don't ever so. All right, I defer.
I'm going to start with Mr. Belcher, since he does the writing for that Men in the Mask as well as the artwork. So when you're sitting down to write your stories for Men in the Mask, Mike, what's more important to you? Is it character or is it plot?
Well, you know what? When I get down to an idea, I find myself getting the broad idea for the plot.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's usually just this kind of a 1 or 2 sentence thing in my head about what the story is going to generally be. But I find myself when I'm constructing the story, I find myself looking through the character's eyes.
Yeah.
Because, you know, you're trying to figure out what choices would these characters make. And so, you know, I definitely lean more to the character. The plot is important. I mean, you know, it's the germination of the idea. It's that loose structure. But I think that I've always had more luck through the character's eyes. I've always been easier to navigate the story, to get through certain elements by saying, I know this character wouldn't do this.
Yeah.
And so in constructing the conflict, I always look, like I said, the character. I'm a guy who leans more on character. I find that the character usually leads me where they need to be. And, you know, like I said, you have to start the plot's important. But at the same token, when you're making that story, when you're trying to put all those pieces together, you know, you ask yourself, what would this guy do? What would this woman do? You know, what would this bad guy do? What are their motivations? And so, you know, that's the reason I had the idea. It's like, you know, I'm curious about different points of view on how do you construct your story, which is more important. But maybe they're both important and they're a partnership. They work hand in hand with each other.
Are you reading my notes?
No, I don't think so.
You put them on a Google Doc. We were all reading them.
Yeah,
that's some of what I do. Is if I'm creating, so not with a serialized character, but if I'm creating something new, and I might come up with the plot first, and then it's like, well, what kind of character can I put into that plot that's going to make that story move forward? And so then the character becomes intertwined with the plot. Because I know a lot of guys will go out and they'll make these giant character documents for their character. This is my character's backstory, and I got 30 pages of stuff. He does this, he does that, and then they try to find a story, and I think that just leads to frustration.
Yeah,
because I don't know how that. I don't even know how you think like that.
I don't either.
And so if I get a good idea, like for a story or a plot, then it's like, oh, okay, well, what kind of character can I torture by putting into that system?
Right.
And you know, and how can I expand the plot, and what choices what Mike said, what choices can the character make when he's presented with the elements of that plot? And is that enough information to drive my story forward to a satisfying conclusion?
Yeah. Real quick here. Chris Holm. Chris, thank you for hanging out with us. Chris Holm says, human artists are prone to burnout, timely turnaround, and drama, and we cost money. So I guess that's why AI is looking more attractive to writers as the technology improves. I can see that. I think there's still a lot of resistance to AI, with understandable. But I can understand, as a writer, I can certainly understand why and what the draw and attraction is to having an AI. Because again, you don't have to worry about, you know, the artist getting a different assignment and going and working on something else, right? And leaving you with half your project done, right?
The downside is, I think Mike doesn't have to worry about this because he writes and draws, and Tommy doesn't have to worry about this because he's writing and drawing his own stuff. But for you guys like us, sometimes, and I would say most times for me, it's beneficial to have a human artist so that you can bounce ideas off them and they can, you know, basically I look to the artist as like, tell me where I'm full of crap.
Right. Yeah.
And tell me what I've done wrong. Tell me where the pacing is off. Tell me what you can do to pump this up, or call me on my stuff, and we can work together to make it better. And the computer art, the AI guy, ain't gonna do that.
Yeah. No.
Yeah. Well, you get your artist strengths. You figure out, you know, what, you know, and that can actually motivate you. What are the strengths of your artist? Does he draw great looking women? Do you want to, you know, focus on that, or great architecture? You know, that's the great two-way between actually having somebody to talk to.
Yes.
Well, You can ask Tommy. One of the things that I like to do when I meet an artist and we're talking about working together, I will ask them, "What do you like to draw? Tell me what you like to draw." And I want to find a way that I can write a story that I'm still happy with, right? That I want to tell, but that you're going to want to draw.
And sometimes that'll help me find a plot.
Yes.
Yeah.
If you say, okay, I want to, for whatever dumb reason, I want to draw a cavalry charge, then you tell me that, I'm going to try to find a plot where we can put in a bunch of horses.
right.
And the sidebar to that is, of course, no modern artist wants to draw 1,000 horses anyway.
No, I don't know any artist who wants to draw horses.
or the opposite of that. If the artist says, "Look, I can draw pretty much anything else but horses," well, then you're going to come up with a story where there is no horses.
No horses.
Well, there's no horses.
Yeah,
right.
In most of the stories anyway. But you get where
Because if you have an artist like that and you go, listen, I know you said you don't want to draw horses, but I got this great horse plot.
Yeah, he's going to go, I told you,
No,
I cannot draw.
We're not going to do that.
No.
Or I suck at drawing cars. Well, then you
yeah,
just gotta avoid the cars. Yeah.
Or this is going to happen. That you might say, okay, well, you've got a good relationship with them, and so they're going to say, okay, I like you. Okay, I'll do it, right? And then they'll start on it because they like you, right?
Yeah.
And then they'll start drawing it, and then they'll start drawing the horses, and they'll go, oh, I hate this. I don't want to do this.
Right.
And then they're going to say, hey,
Wasted
I know I
everybody's
told
time.
you I would do this project, but I can't do it. And so you got 3, 4, 5 pages that look good, but you can't use because they're not going to finish it.
Yeah.
What if we change it to camels?
Bears. Can we write on the back of bears? I
Can
draw
we
a
do
really
bears?
good bear.
How about hogs? Hogs are pretty big,
They can be.
and hogs are funny. They're inherently
Cece says, I find the plot to be the most difficult thing to realize completely. The character is a necessary vehicle. However, coming up with cool characters doesn't mean anything with a good plot.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah, because Indiana Jones is nothing. I mean, he's a professor who runs around and collects old stuff and takes
Old
it back
stuff.
to the museum or whatever. But without the plot, without the villain, without the conflict of the Nazis, and without the two different parties wanting the same thing, there's no story there.
Right. Yeah. It's
just a guy going to work.
It's just a guy going to work. Yeah. Who collects cool, interesting historical artifacts. Right.
Right.
Who goes to a shelf and says, hey, look what I have on my shelf here. Isn't this
Right.
nifty?
I stole that before the British Museum got it.
That's
right.
So is the answer both? Then?
Well, hold on. You're next, Tommy. What about you? When you get around to writing Zomboy or Little Man So-So, what's more important to you? Is it character or is it plot?
Well, I mean, the characters are already established, and so it's easy. So now it's just trying to come up with what they're doing. So that's the plot. But as Tom knows from this past week of me just going crazy trying to figure out a synopsis for Zomboy, and you helping me out, Roland, trying to come up with a one-liner. I don't know what I'm talking about.
But you're a seat of the pants guy.
Yeah,
I know, and that's a bad thing. I know what's going on in the whole universe, but you're right. I think it is the characters. So I know what the characters are doing, and then I could just easily come up with some zany something, and it doesn't.
Yeah. I've told you before. I think you are more along the lines of a comic strip. That's the kind of I think the kind of stories that yours are kind of geared to, right?
Yeah, and what I like to write is more of I call them a little roller coaster kind of stories.
Yeah.
So it's just yeah. So that's why all my books are like I'll put them all into a bigger novel kind of thing. But it's that's why I try to just do 8-page stories, because it's easier for me to write something that's more coherent in those just 8 pages of something, it's the hill of a roller coaster. But no, I think characters is you gotta, yeah. I mean, it's like my tagline says, I agree with Tom Mason.
Of course you do. Tom, you were about to say before I jumped in?
Yeah, because the thing like with Tommy's stuff, and I think this is true for Mike's as well, if you come up with the plot, you've got the idea, you can pretty much tell, oh, this is how my character will react to that situation.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then you've already, because once the characters are established, they're important because they will then drive the plot forward.
Yes. Yeah.
And
I think the danger in plot is that you don't want the plot, you don't want the story that you end up with, right? So you come up with a plot. You don't want to be able to just pick any character off the shelf and drop it in, right? Because the character that you're using needs to be vital to that plot.
Yes. Because that's why if you watch something like the Rockford Files, that those plots were fairly specific to the character of Jim Rockford.
Yeah.
And if you pulled that plot out and gave it to, I don't know, Cannon or Barnaby Jones or whatever, you'd have to make some changes to accommodate the fat detective or the old detective.
Right. Yeah.
And so, because you get a different character reaction depending on who it is.
Right.
So if you're trying to come up with something new, would it be plot first?
Well,
now I'm jumping the gun again. Okay.
No. Let me read these. We got a couple comments here, and then we'll jump back on that. Vava Boom says, I had a noir detective plot, and my artist really wanted to draw a pirate scene. The plot morphed into a time traveling detective with a noir pulp feel, and then he says, ended up being a lot of fun. Yeah, I mean, when you're a writer, that's what you've got to be able to do. That you've got to be able to say, hey, look, this is what my artist wants to draw. I want to keep my artist happy because I want to keep my artist drawing. And if my artist wants to draw a pirate scene, well, then come up with a way to do it. And that sounds like a lot of fun, actually.
Yeah, it does. I kind of want to see that now.
I know, right? Me too. Okay, then he just added, personally, plot sets the scenario, but the character's interaction within the plot is what will make the story enjoyable. Absolutely.
I'll go even further. Most people, when they talk about the stuff that they've read or seen, they talk about the character.
That's what I was about to say. So
the audience says, oh, I want to see a James Bond movie. I want to see an Indiana Jones movie. I want to see a Barbie movie. I want to see whatever. They don't say, I'd really like to see an old guy in a temple movie.
Right.
Or when you're done with the Spider-Man book, you don't go, man, New York looked really cool.
Right. Yeah. I can't wait to see what happens to New York next.
Yeah, I can't wait. I wonder if that deli opened up on the corner. I saw them, that bodega right over around the corner. I've been to that place. It's going to be great. I can't wait to draw some more pictures of that.
Chris says, yeah, I hate superhero plots where the villain is a reflection of the hero, powers, abilities-wise. Love to mix it up. Monster of the week. So this wasn't really about creating, but Tommy, since he kind of asked that, so this wasn't really about creating plot or character, but I think it looks like that's kind of where it leaded. Tom, did you have anything you wanted to add since I didn't start with you?
No, I think we've covered everything, and I think I've resolved all my anger issues.
Okay, good. So Tommy was asking the question, when you're starting something new, and I'm paraphrasing here, Tommy, because I don't remember exactly what you said, so correct me if I'm wrong. Is it what do you start with? Do you start with character, or do you start with plot? Is that what your question was?
Yeah, I mean, based off of the question of tonight's stream.
Yeah. So when you're starting a story, do you start with character or do you start with plot? Tom, when
you go, look, I'm going to do a new book. I want it to take place with this guy named George in Georgia. No, you go, no, I want it to be on a spaceship or something. So right? No?
Yeah.
You could?
Yeah.
What? So I look.
I got this neat idea for a character, and then you work out what he's doing. Is that?
Yeah, because I think because the thing is, for most of us in the writing game, we create a ton of characters.
Yes.
Yeah. And sometimes they don't have anything to do. Like they're just you write down a character.
Neat idea for
right. This is a thing.
I
can't come up with a plot to go with it, so I'm gonna put it in my drawer. I'm gonna save it until something happens, and that's sort of what you do. And because none of us ever go, I just have one idea,
right?
And I just have one character. It's like, no, I got way too. I have a drawer full that when I die, people are just going to go, "What the hell is wrong with him?" And so
who are all these people?
Tom really
Right.
think this was going to sell? Why did you write this down?
Right. And so, and I got a ton of folders on my computer of just ideas that I've jotted down that I didn't want to lose track of in case, I want to go back to them at some point. But I think for me, if I'm coming up with like a movie idea, which is singular, yeah, there you go. I like that. And if it's a movie idea, then it's singular, and then it becomes a mixture. Like, I got to start out with the plot first. Is there enough plot to make a 2-hour movie? And then what kind of character can I put? Like Die Hard is a great example because it's a bunch of guys are going to rob the safe at a tall skyscraper. That's good. That's a great plot, and that's a good engine. Now, what can I do to extend that? Well, I got a detective coming in from out of town. He's going to meet his estranged wife at the Christmas party. So that's a reason to put everybody together. And then, he's at the party as sort of an uninvited guest to try to get back with his wife. And then the robbers break in, hold everybody hostage, and he's left outside
With no shoes.
without no shoes, and he has to try to save everybody. And you can sort of see those are all building blocks of a really great Bruce Wayne story.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
And so, and I think that, and I'm sure they don't start out. I mean, even though that's adapted from a book, I don't think they start out with that fully formed plot. They just find the pieces of it. What kind of character can do this? Well, if I get a Bruce Willis who's a hothead detective estranged from his wife, how is he going to react in that situation? He's not going to let his wife die. He's going to try to get back together with his wife, so he'll try to save her. That means he's going to try to save everybody. And then where does that go? And then what are the interesting things he can do to take out the bad guys when all he has is like one pistol? Yeah. And so as you start to put these pieces together over time, you start to see that there is an actual story there and it's big enough.
Yeah.
And then if you're doing a serialized character, you want to kind of find a character or characters, male or female or non-binary or whomever. Can this sustain an ongoing thing?
Yeah.
Is this enough of a character that people will like and want to follow for X number of months, X number of years? And then what kind of plot would help bring that character out? So I think it's basically just fiddling. I don't think one comes first and one comes second.
Yeah, and that was kind of going to be my answer as well. Is that I think it depends on what idea hits you. Sometimes you can get the idea, oh, wouldn't it be cool if this happened, right? And it's a thing that happens, or like you said, a robbery, or even an element. Wouldn't it be cool if there were characters that did this, right?
Right.
And you don't have the character, but you have the idea for a thing. Right. So you can start that way, but then you've got to go back in and say, all right, well, this is a cool thing.
Right.
But I gotta put characters in there to make this thing actually work, to make it interesting.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, you can see when they staff the character list on like a Star Trek show, an ensemble show, or a cop show that's an ensemble show.
Yeah.
They try to get a mix of people.
Yes.
That have different interests and different desires and different approaches to the work so that they can conflict with each other and their characters can emerge over time.
I wish I could write a big sign and put it up as conflict. That's the key. That is the key thing that is missing so much. Right. You can't have two characters that agree on everything.
No.
Because that gets boring. Then they're just, hey, you want to go get ice cream? Yes.
You get
all right.
You get the first 2 seasons of Star Trek Next Generation, where everybody's happy and everybody's everybody just gets along. It's like no, you want like the 4th season of Star Trek Next Generation.
No, one of the shows that I like to refer to, and I like the both the romantic element and the partner element in it is Bones. I don't know if you all seen that.
Oh yeah,
that show.
I've seen every episode a million times.
Yes, yeah, but the two I can't remember Booth and Bones, they're completely different, right? But yet there's this attraction to the two characters. As a viewer, you're like, how are they attracted? But you can see it, right? You're cheering for them. You want it to happen.
Yeah.
But they have conflict because they don't agree. And I think
he also has, I mean, they set it up really well because he has basically that gut feeling.
Yes.
Based on years of experience and being able to look at people in the interview room and go, I know something.
Yep.
And then she's got all the science stuff. And so she can bring that to it. And so they're sort of compatible even when they're not. So it's this weird conflicting compatibility that I think works for them.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he's charismatic on screen. And she is, and she's, aside from being hot, she's also very charismatic.
Right. Yeah. But in a different way.
Right.
She's got the science geeky charisma. Right. Where he's got the bad boy, I can kill you 3 different ways. And
they also staff the lab with a weird bunch of quirky characters.
Yep.
That play off the dynamic of the main 2 and also the dynamic of the plot.
Yep.
Because whenever you introduce the dead body in the beginning, you can pretty much know what Hodgins and the other characters, what their specialties are going to do and how they're going to come into conflict with the evidence.
Yep. Yeah. And that's it. You have when you got to have an ensemble cast, you've got to they have to be different.
Right. Oh yeah.
Well, and I realize I'm talking too much and I apologize, but Claremont does that with X-Men. Claremont and Burke.
Yes.
Yeah.
They were really great about establishing those X-Men characters as, I mean, because in the Kirby Lee versions in the 60s, they're basically just ciphers.
Yeah.
Right.
And it wasn't until Len Wein first with Dave Cockrum, but it really took hold when Claremont built on what had come before and made those into real seeming characters, like soap opera characters, where you're like, I didn't care about the plot. I didn't care about Arcade. I didn't care about any of that stuff. Just like I really cared what was going to happen to those characters.
Yeah. They had interpersonal relationships, and Arcade and all the other villains, they just got in the way.
Yeah.
Yes, that's it. They're the obstacle.
Yes, that's absolutely. They're the obstacles. It's one of the things I tell my students about Spider-Man when I say, okay, what's a movie Spider-Man about? Right. That first movie. And they're like, well, it's about the Green Goblin. And I said, no. I said, Peter even tells you at the beginning, I can't remember how early in it is, but he's holding the camera and he's looking at Mary Jane and he's like, this is a story about a girl. He tells you right there. That's a girl. I like that girl. Everything else gets in the way. All that stuff gets in the way. He becomes Spider-Man, right? It gets in the way of him trying to get Mary Jane. I preferred Gwen, but they didn't ask me.
Me too.
I like Spider-Gwen from the animated Spider-Man movies.
I still haven't seen the second one.
Oh, I haven't seen it.
Yeah.
Oh, you got to, man.
Yeah, I know.
They're my favorite Spider-Man movies.
Vavavoom says, actually, Mustafa, didn't it? It's Vavavoom. Sorry about that the first time. Vavavoom says, I start with genre and then characters and create a story in that genre that features those characters in a hopefully entertaining way. That's where character interacting with plot comes in.
So, he's got all the he takes all the different, or he or she takes all the different elements.
Yeah.
And then plays with them.
So what strategies do you guys use to make your characters different from one another?
Goals, motivations.
Okay.
What do they want? Everybody's got different wants. Everybody has different thoughts. And then as soon as you establish that, you kind of can go from there. That's the hallmark of all 4 of us. We have our own motivations while we do comics.
Yep.
We have similarities. We can sit here and we can talk about Claremont. We can talk about Kirby. But as far as methodologies, we all have motivations, what we expect out of our stories.
Yeah.
So that's what makes us characters in our own story.
You can get that from Bones too, because in the Bones TV show, Booth wants to catch the bad guy.
Yep.
And Bones just wants the science to solve how they died. Solve the mystery of how they died.
She wants the answer.
Yeah.
Right, so she wants the scientific answer, and he wants to take that scientific answer and lock somebody up.
Yeah.
Right.
And so that's two, and sometimes those goals conflict, and that's where, So yeah, you need those things to play off.
Yeah, I think I think I don't know how much, and I know Mike does independent comics y'all read, but I think that's one of the things that's missing in a lot of independent comics today is goal. They come up with the concept. You look at it, I'm like, oh, that's a cool title, or the character sounds cool, or we talked about one before, and I don't want to bring it up because we don't like to be negative, but the concept was really cool. And even in talking about it, Tom was like, "Oh, I want to run and get that." I'm like, "Yeah, but it didn't really deliver on what it could have been," and because there was goal is that they have these cool characters, but they don't really do anything. They don't really have a goal to accomplish.
Well, that's what I think makes Die Hard a great example, is because there's the goal of, I got to stop the bank robbery or whatever, but that doesn't really resonate with me. It's like, okay, so you want to stop bank robbery, but rescuing his ex-wife or his estranged wife from the bank robbers so that he can reconcile with her. Now I really care. I'm invested. I like the Bruce Willis character.
Right.
I've met his wife's character in the movie so far. I would like to see them at least try to get back together or have a chance to get back together. I want him to rescue her. And in order to do that, he's got to stop the bank robbery.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's more than just stopping the bank robbers. There's
that's the thing.
There's a bigger purpose of the movie. Yeah.
Right. And that's what I think is wrong with independent comics in some of them is that they're
in general,
they just want to stop the bank robbery. And it's like, well, no, I would like,
that's just everyday stuff. We can just go outside and look and see that kind of stuff. Be a little more involved in that.
Like in Man of the Mask, there's a lot going on. There's a lot of goals. There's a lot. I mean, you know why he wants to stop crime.
Yeah,
and it's a real, identifiable, heartfelt issue.
Yeah,
and so that's where Mike is head and shoulders above many of the other independent creators.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, agreed. Yeah. Well, then I think the other thing is the other. Again, this is not with all independent comics, so I want to make that clear. I'm not saying all independent comics, but a lot of them, right? I think character is a problem. One thing that happens very frequently, and I don't know where this comes from, is that you can read it from start to finish, and then often you can't name the characters. You know, you can tell me what happened. You can read through it and then, okay, what happened? Well, there's this dude who he had the power to fly, and he flew in and he saved this thing, right? So there's that, but they can't tell you the name of the character. And I remember reading there was a book by Panini several years ago when I went with Tommy and Barry to San Diego Comic-Con, and they were handing out free comics. You read the whole thing. It was a freebie. It was they were handing it out. You read the whole thing. And I went back and looked. I searched his name. The character's name was not used anywhere in the comic.
It was on the cover, Roland. Come on.
I don't remember that. It has been long enough that I don't remember.
So where's the fault in something like that? Is it a lack of editor? Is it an inexperienced writer? Is it just no oversight?
I think it's both of those things. I think it's an inexperienced writer, and I think it's the lack of maybe an experienced editor. I'm assuming they had an.
There's a funny thing when you read Claremont and Burns' X-Men. They were designed to be read 30 days apart.
Yes, they were.
And so they
Wolverine. He's the best he is at what he does, and what he does is very nice.
And when you read them all in a row, when you binge them, for example, you sort of see some repetition of the names being called out, and he's the best at what he does, shows up every other issue or whatever. And but they weren't meant to be read that way.
Right.
They were meant to be read at 30 days apart, and they were meant to be each one was supposed to be an open gate for potential new readers, so they knew everybody going in.
Yeah.
And so and I think Claremont is sort of the a masterclass at doing that kind of stuff.
Yes.
And making sure everybody knew who all the characters were.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can pull out an issue of the Claremont Burn X-Men and just read it out of continuity.
Yep.
You know who the characters are, you know their relationships to each other, you know their names, and you know some sliver of their backstory
Yes.
in addition to the big plot.
Yeah.
And that's what I think
and
is
a little
missing.
bit above their powers.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which again is the danger room.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. And another show that's really good about that is NCIS, right?
Right.
You can watch any, and I know this because this is kind of the way I started watching it. My wife had been telling me, you need to watch this, you need to watch this, and so I watched. I sat in the middle of one of, I don't know, season 4, 5, 6, I don't remember, and watched it. At the end, I could tell you who Gibbs was. I could tell you who McSquirtle,
Ziva, Tony, McGee,
Ziva, and McGee, but and then Abby, right? And
right.
And they all, because they found the writers found a way to utilize the names of the characters in a way that it's not exactly. I mean, we don't really sit here and call each other by name all the time, but they figured out a way to do it. But they figured out a way to do it in a way that sounded fairly natural. And right. one of my favorite parts was that when Abby would run in with news, Gibbs, like I've got news, right? And it was just she said his name 3 times.
Well, they also go ahead.
No, I was going to say, and that show is a great representation of kind of what the stream is about, because it's all about the characters. That show is such a well-written show with the characters. Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter what they're doing. The plot's just the same silly thing week after week, but it's the characters. That show is so great because of the characters.
And they staffed it like a Star Trek show, because what they have to do is, there's a crime. Well, what do we need? Well, we need to go to Abby's lab,
right?
And she's got to look stuff up. Then we need to go to the morgue, and that's where
we got to go talk to Ducky and all them, and
that's where Ilya Kuryakin is. And then we need to go to the computer stuff and track some stuff down. So that's when we go to
Tim to help out. And
then we need to send agents out into the field, and that's where we send our 2 misfits,
right.
Tony and Ziva, who are compatible but incompatible.
Right.
And we send them out.
Did you know that they're doing a show with those 2 guys?
Tony and Ziva, yeah.
I can't
wait.
Also
doing a young Gibbs.
Really?
That'd be crazy.
That'd be interesting.
Yeah. So it's a huge franchise.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
But they've got the formula down.
Yeah. BJ and I have started watching because we sprung for Paramount, so we've been watching NCIS New Orleans.
Okay.
Scott Bakula.
Actually pretty good.
I'm liking it a lot.
Lucas Black's great.
Oh, he is. His accent.
Oh my gosh.
So listen, I really like Scott Bakula, but there is occasionally a time when he says, "Well, I don't know y'all doing." I'm like, "Okay, just stop. Don't try the Southern accent. Just talk, dude."
What's funny is,
but the other dude,
he's not from Alabama.
Yeah, he's not. That's not an actor accent.
That's real. I know him.
Real. Yeah, because I didn't have, because he's in Sling Blade, and I didn't have him. I didn't have him as the child actor from Sling Blade having a good career, and then he did one of the Fast and Furious movies, and then all of a sudden he's in the NCIS show.
Yeah,
and it's like, okay,
he was the best part of all the Pretty Horses. I mean,
I haven't seen that one.
Everything he's been in, he's the best thing in.
Yeah.
Now he's great. Somebody should find something more for him to do.
I agree. Yeah, he's really good. And
that whole show just kind of went. All of a sudden, it was going on, and then went poof, and it just stopped.
But again, see, listen to what we're talking about. We're talking about characters, right?
Yeah.
We're not talking about New Orleans even, which is a cool setting.
It's a character itself. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. So I one more question. But Mike Wheeler says, Mike, good of you to stop by and hang out with us. Thank you.
Hey, Mike.
He says, now I analyze TV shows. I guess I always did, but I really get into the depth of the storytelling. What works, what doesn't. Sometimes a show will have a character do something against the character, and it really stands out. Yeah.
You were talking about them bringing the names up all the time, which is kind of what the Reacher I've watched the new Reachers a couple of times now. We have a friend that stayed, and we watched both 2 seasons, 3 seasons.
2.
They mentioned that name like 15,000 times per episode. And if you're streaming them all, if you're binge watching them, you're like, quit saying that guy's name. Shut up already.
But here's
Reacher this, Reacher that, Reacher.
But here's the I don't know.
We get it. He's the big Hulk dude.
I would rather hear the name than not know it. I would rather get to the end of the episode and go, the dude with the gun. What was his name? You shouldn't end an episode thinking that. And I argue you shouldn't end a comic book thinking that either. You shouldn't finish a comic book and say, the person with the hat. Yeah.
Hat guy.
The hat guy, yeah.
That's a superhero name.
Hat guy. He's got all the powers of a hat.
Write that down. Grey Wolf says, hi at chat. We're not chat, but what's up, Grey Wolf? Thank you for swinging by and hanging out with us. So one of the things I try to do is to make my characters different. Do you guys know what the Myers-Briggs personality type indicator is?
Oh yeah, I think I'm a psychopath. I think that's what it.
So Myers-Briggs, it was big in college. BJ was for a while. She was and this is kind of how I learned about it. But she was a certified test giver, right? So what they would do is they would give you a test, and there was 4 type indicators. So what's cool is I saw one of these.
I think mine came up mass
Cracked.
murderer, I think.
Y'all remember Cracked magazine? They did videos for a while. I found that was great. I found it where they actually took the Myers-Briggs type indicator and broke down Fantastic Four, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and applied them all to those. I'm like, that's pretty cool.
That is cool.
So I will use I am, and BJ laughs whenever I test this way, but I'm an INTJ. The I stands for introvert. And she's like, you're not an introvert. And I'm like, what? I kind of am. And she says, no, you're not. I said, look, if I'm talking comics, I'm not an introvert. If I'm talking, Arkansas football with somebody, I'm not an introvert. But you put me pretty much anywhere else, and I'm an introvert. And she goes, yeah, you're like an E, right? And the E stands for extrovert. So, but then there's then I can't remember all of them now. But there's thinking, there's judicial, there's I can't remember what the N is. But what I will do often is I will apply a label to the characters, and try to make them different and opposite. And this one's an INTJ, and the other was a EF. I can't remember what the other one is. But I will apply the different labels, and then I'll look under, because there's a whole website for it and everything. You can look and see the personality types that fit those labels. Right. And then that helps me when I'm like, okay, well, so what would Mouse do? Well, okay, in this situation, I think she would do this. Feels right. Let me go look at the Myers-Briggs thing. Oh, well, this says she might react the other way. Okay, and that helps me to do this.
Well, if BJ was somebody that could give these tests, she needs to come on one day and do it for all of us.
She would. You know what? I'd have to ask her. She'd probably do it. But so you have to take. You can't. It's a thing that you have to sit and you answer. It's one of those multiple choice. I would rather be in a room full of people. I would rather be the center of attention. Or if it was a room full of people, I would be on the side, right? Or it's one of those. You couldn't just take it this quick. But what we could do is she could send it to us. We can get it, and then
she could reveal it,
and she could score them and reveal them on the.
We should do that. That'd be funny.
BJ.
I go for stereotypes. I love using stereotypes and flipping.
Wow.
Dude, you read my notes for a show. Stereotypes.
I'm telling you, I need to look around here. I'm telling you. But that's where I start.
Mike, are you in the other room? Mike's sitting to the left of you, Roland. Turn the camera over there.
The walls are the same color, so.
I know. I think I see some of the same pictures on the wall.
Give me a high five, Mike.
Stupid camera.
Oh, let's see here. Woodrow, glad to see you. Thanks for hanging out with us. I appreciate it. It says, love the talk. I'm currently trying to give a new character more life. I really want to make something kid friendly.
He's a juggler.
He's a juggler?
I don't know.
All
Besides
right. Well, that's an interesting question. Does your character personality? I know the language does, but does the character personality? Excuse me. Let me rewind on the question. Does the intended audience affect your character's personality? Again, I know language does, right?
Oh yeah.
But
yeah, I'm gonna say yes, because if you're writing a show for kids, you have to have the goals be identifiable for that audience.
You don't want it to be too far over there.
Yeah.
Right. I try to write slightly above the target audience, but
Right.
not so far above that they're having to look stuff up.
You kind of, when I'm doing my Kid Heroes stuff, I kind of think of more of the Pixar-y kind of type stories. So that way it's shooting for the kids, but if a parent looks over their shoulder, they can go, "Oh, I see what Thomas was doing. That's pretty funny."
Right.
Yeah. Sorry, I got distracted. I was reading Cassisi's note there. So one of the things they actually teach in creative writing classes throughout the nation is that what Tom said is that you write for the next age up, right? So for elementary school kids, they want to read about junior high kids, right? Junior high kids, they want to read about high school kids. High school kids want to read about college kids. College kids want to read about adults, kind of thing.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's kind of
in general, I think that holds true. I think that's
So what do 50-year-olds want to read about?
Retirement.
There you go.
I want to retire so bad.
What are my benefits? Can I afford to retire? Give me a comic book about can I afford to retire?
As far as all ages goes, I think he was working generalities.
Yeah.
Keep it simple. And that doesn't mean keep it dumb.
Right.
Just don't complicate it, and don't complicate the goals. If this is what it is and something that somebody can relate to. I mean, heck, it's like Tom said, right above. I mean, it's like a show like Regular Show. That was a show that Aiden was watching when he was 11, but I was getting a kick out of it because they were talking to me too in a kind of a weird, because I have a brand of 12-year-old, but that's how you talk to generalities. It's something that can be understood on one level, but then someone else can kind of get to and get something out of it.
Yeah.
Also, kids don't like to be talked down to. Like there's nobody. Kids in real life don't want to be talked down to. Kids on TV don't want to be talked down to. They all want to go to TV and they want to hang out with people that they like.
I don't want to be talked down to.
Right.
And I think that's one of the Mike, you hit the nail on the head. I think that's one of the big misconceptions when someone says an all ages thing or general audiences. They're like, well, I got to dumb it down. No, that is not what that means. It just means you can't drop all the F-bombs and you can't show boobs, right? I mean, you still want to write a smart story.
Yeah. Massive amounts of blood, there's stuff you can do. I mean, think about all the
big grin on
comics.
Tommy's face. He's been thinking boobs now.
Well,
think about all the comics that were created under the Comics Code.
Well, I got
it. They're the ones that we grew up on.
Yep.
And we love. And how many of them have been turned into Marvel movies because they're such great stories?
Yep.
And those guys weren't one bit hampered by not showing blood, by not showing anything that you shouldn't be seeing. A story was told because they got to be more creative about it.
Well, also what Tommy said about the Pixar movies.
Yeah.
Those are all ages movies.
Yeah.
And they're not dumb. They're not dumbed down.
No, they're not.
They're just trying to hit all of the different notes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But still giving a complete
smart.
story. Yeah, a smart story that.
You have to write it in a way that it can be appreciated, enjoyed by a kid, right? A younger person. But we're also, I can go in and go, I see what you did there.
And also there's stuff, I know not everything is like this, but there's stuff that we saw as kids that as we got older, we saw the other layers.
Yes.
Like, I see I know what that's about. Oh, I know.
Bunny is just, oh my god.
Go back and rewatch the Bugs Bunny stuff. I can't believe I didn't know what they were talking about.
Right.
Bugs
Couple more,
Bunny, you sly dog, you.
couple more comments here. Kasisi says, this is interesting. Wouldn't you say that describing a show based on the characters is just the easiest way for folks to quickly communicate what they like? However, the plot is the fuel that makes the characters memorable. He knows he's an INFJ. And see, I'm an INTJ. So he's a feeler where, that's the one I remember. He's a feeler, I'm a thinker.
Yeah.
You have no feelings?
I have no feelings.
All right.
Well, think about all the great
You asked Tommy
ensemble
about that one.
Yeah, think about all the great ensemble comics and TV shows and movies. Think of MASH. Think of St. Elsewhere. You know, these characters that were so fully rounded, episode to episode, you were sitting there, well, Hawkeye wouldn't take that. No, Hawkeye's going to be very upset about that.
Yeah.
Also, that's another great example because on MASH, when they got rid of characters, they brought in a character who was completely different, but still fit the dynamic of the show. So they got rid of Henry Blake, and they brought in Colonel Potter, who's a military guy, by the book guy, and they got rid of Trapper John, and they brought in BJ, who was a married guy with a family, and they got rid of Larry Linville as Frank, and they brought in a stiff,
British
self-righteous pig of a man,
Charles.
But those are the dynamic of the characters still stayed the same. They just had different obstacles now in different conflicts.
Yeah.
They had different edges that rubbed against everybody.
Yeah.
So would you also say that so these characters, they have these characteristics, let's say, or personality traits. They're exaggerated, and they're exaggerated in the show because that helps to make them different. Would you? Yeah. I don't know that
everything's got to be amped up a little bit, right?
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think we might need to do a better job of that in comics itself. Is that when we have a character, these two characters, and we want them to be different? Well, we need to take this trait and amp it up a little bit. You're like, I don't want to make them too much. Well, yeah, you do, because that's what is going to cause
I could just go outside, like I've said before. I could just see this normal stuff just outside. Why would I?
Yeah, I don't want to see. I can see those two guys at the diner.
Yeah,
right. Exactly.
I want to see this guy go off the deep end, and I want to see this guy, do the same thing, and I want to see some conflict, and I want to see them, fight over the salt or whatever.
That's right. Yeah.
Rather than go, no, here's the salt. You can
right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, you guys are boring.
You need $5 here. Here.
Okay,
take it in.
That's so. I maybe this is the wrong thing, but people always talk about Thanksgiving dinner because you bring in all your family that has all their problems, and they're all bringing it to Thanksgiving dinner, and Thanksgiving dinner can be a sort of a bubbling cauldron of different perspectives as everybody sits around the table and talks about their stupid crap. And so, but that's the conflict. You want to see, if you were going to write a Thanksgiving dinner, you would want to take that horrible experience and amp it up.
Yep. My last Thanksgiving dinner. How can I tell this? My last Thanksgiving dinner. So my mother and my father were both. They had both had 3 siblings apiece. Right. And so we were eating at my mother's brother's house, and all of the siblings, I'm tiptoeing here. All the siblings agreed politically, except for the man whose house that we were eating. Someone brought up politics.
See,
it was just a question, right? Someone said,
just a question.
How can you vote? How can you support this candidate, right? And that person got up and walked out.
And then there was food on the wall. People had a black walking out with a black eye.
And then his wife said, I told you not to bring that up.
See? Isn't that the most memorable Thanksgiving ever? Because of the conflict. I mean, it's horrible because it's your own family and it's happening right in front of your own eyes. However, as you're watching it, if that happened to me and I'm sitting at the table, I'd be going, I can use this. Go on.
Yes. Get my phone out so I can record
Tom would be like, here's some coals. Let me heap them on.
Yeah. The last thing I'm going to say is calm down. Let's all be reasonable.
Tom would be like, well, didn't you just say this about that guy the other day? And
You were telling me in the car.
Yeah,
on the way over. Right?
Oh.
Mike Wheeler says, what I liked about Never Ending Story was that it didn't write down to kids. Actually, it broke their little hearts. It did mine, but it opened the doors.
Disney movies, the classic Disney animated movies, always break a kid's heart. They're always killing the favorite dog or whatever.
Yeah. Oh man, I still cried, Oh Yeller.
Well, he was a bad dog though, Roland.
Oh man, but he wasn't.
He had rabies.
He just got rabies. It's not his
Sure.
fault.
His fault.
He was the hero.
Right. See, he sacrificed his all. He he's like a superhero.
Oh, and that's another thing we'll talk about. Woodrow says, this is exactly what I was struggling with. I want kids to look up to the character, so I made my character 13, but I'm trying to write it so adults can be entertained as well. Yeah, and I'm
Make him do dumb 13-year-old stuff, but then talk smart. Yeah,
I'm gonna paraphrase Mr. Mason from last Wednesday. Is that shoot, I lost my train of thought here. Thinking about I'm trying to write so adults can be entertained as well. I've lost my paraphrase. What the heck was I going to say?
Well, in my Kid Hero stuff, they're elementary school first graders, but they're not talking like they're first graders.
Right.
They're more teenage talking type stuff. So
well, I think that's true of a lot of things. I'll bring up another old example. If you watch the old Johnny Quest episodes, Johnny and Haji don't talk like kids that age.
Right.
They talk like they're super smart. Oh. I mean, they do dumb stuff. They get involved. They go, let's see what's behind this curtain, and then trouble starts. They do dumb stuff, but they talk above their age.
I thought I remembered. You're talking about, because you guys were talking about writer's block, and one of the things that Tom said, and this is a paraphrase because I can't remember exactly, is that's why it's called work. You are working at writing, right? No one said it's going to be easy. You're writing. So Woodrow, you're going to have to write it so adults can be entertained as well. That means you're going to have to work a little bit, right? It might be easy to come up with a 13-year-old stuff, right? But then how are you going to layer that so that we can enjoy it as adults?
And what I said on the Wednesday stream is there's a friend of mine who was, to Woodrow's problem, if I made my character 13 and I'm trying to write it so adults can be entertained as well, you got to find stuff that does that.
Yeah.
Find a TV show, find a book, find a comic, find a movie, or several of them that do the kind of thing that you're talking about, and see how they do it, and see if you can draw, not steal from it, but see if you can draw some inspiration about how they work.
Try to find one that they're doing it well, and then go, oh, that's what I need to do.
Right, timeless value, something that won't be dated. That it's not. You're trying to age the 70s with jive and talk. It's like all the Stan Lee, Peter Parker.
All that snappy.
There's snappy dialogue that was good for the 60s, but not so much when you're reading in the 80s.
No, it is. It's like listening to your grandfather tell a story.
Yeah. But and that's what I tell. Of course, nowadays, everyone knows who Stan Lee is, and so when I ask my students, everybody knows who Stan Lee. They all raise their hand, but then I'll say, "How many of you have ever read a Stan Lee?" Almost none of them raise their hand, and that's what I tell them. I said, "Look, the stories are still very good, but the language is very dated. It is very 1960s cool hip daddy-o, and everybody talks that way."
Yeah, but it reads now through modernized. It reads like old guys trying to sound hip. It doesn't sound like hip guys trying to be hip.
Here we go. Woodrow says, I like that advice. I've been looking into Shazam stuff a bit on YouTube to find the right runs to get. Yeah. You want to find something that is, well, for one thing, it's called market research. You want to find something that is like what you're trying to do and study it, find out what works. You can also see the things that don't work, right? You see something that when you're watching it, you're like, yeah, that doesn't work. Then not to do that as well in your own.
Right. Find the parts that take you out of the story.
Yeah. Mike Wheeler said MASH is definitely a show to analyze. I started a rewatch of MASH. Oh, I guess about 2 years ago, and I only got into about 2 seasons, and something happened. I don't remember, and I just got away from it. But I wish I had finished it now. You know,
Well, the Korean War ended.
I never stopped. It's on Me TV, and I can watch it and pick it up at any time.
4 episodes a night.
Yeah, it's all right. Yeah, it's on my word list. I can tell you when it's on.
And what's interesting is how it changes, because the first 3 seasons are basically what used to be called a service comedy.
Yep.
It's basically con men and poker games and how we can have fun poking at the bureaucracy of the war. And then subsequent seasons, it takes a much more serious tone as Hawkeye slowly goes insane.
Yeah.
And so, because I think that I think MASH is not a comedy about doctors. I think it's basically an arc of watching Alan Alda's character go slowly insane until the very last episode.
Because you had to be in a war situation for what, 15 years or however, how many seasons?
They were fighting a 3-year war for 12 years.
10 years.
Yeah, you got to go a little insane, I think.
And I always took it more of and even though it was funny, it was more of an anti-war show. You know, it's like, this is war's bad. Don't do war.
Yes, but it also applies. You can also apply it to the modern era where bureaucracy is all screwed up. And the procedures that you have to follow in order to get anything done. I mean, who working in an office hasn't had similar, right?
Yeah.
I'm sure I don't want you to rat out anybody, but I'm sure where you work, there are situations where it's like, I can't believe I got to fill out all these forms and do all this just to get like a pencil.
So much. It's crazy. Agent Cobb, nice of you to swing by. Says, what's going on? He's going to pull a Tommy or pull an Agent Cobb.
He comes in at closing time.
Yeah, can you start at the beginning? I missed the first part, right?
Can we start over?
So I want to let's talk, because I think we've all kind of when you say that we kind of have a consensus a little bit that we believe that character is probably more important than plot.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. But so I do want to go back and talk a little bit about character that has no plot. If you have an interesting character but it has no plot, what's the problems there?
You don't have a story. You're not going to keep me interested.
Yeah.
Because then
I'm trying to think of a book where that would apply. What would, without getting ourselves in trouble, what's a book where it's just all character with no plot?
Yeah.
Well, you could say I'll go out on a limb. I'll take the bullet. Here we go.
All right.
Okay.
There are a number of, I'll call them autobiographical comics that are about the writer artist telling a story about their life.
Yeah.
But their life is just tedious. It's boring.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I know that may be the point of, life is boring or whatever. But also it's like, well, I don't want to read that because nothing happens. They go to the store, they get yelled at, they don't have correct change, their debit card isn't right. It's like, okay, those things, I'm sure there's an audience for that. That doesn't interest me.
Slice of life comics, or
you can do a slice of life stuff and have it still be interesting. It doesn't have to have aliens or car fires or whatever. You could do that stuff, but I'm just the autobiographical comic where the guy's just wandering around through his life.
Yeah,
that doesn't interest me.
No.
And it's mostly dudes. It's mostly dudes that do that. The women who do the autobiographical comics, they don't do that. They come up with really, in general, they come up with really interesting stuff.
Yeah. Tom, you read Persepolis?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's a really good one.
That's a great personal story.
Yes,
because it's also harrowing because that's it's not a life that I've lived. So I appreciated seeing the horrific conditions under which other people live.
The comments kind of went wild here. Mike Wheeler says you got to go. Mike, if you're already gone, thanks for hanging out with us. He says, got to get up at 5 in the morning. Oh, that sounds early. He says, good night. Agent Cub. So, yeah, that's a no on starting over. Woodrow says, Deadpool story, good, interesting character with very little story.
Well, in the movie, actually, no, because in the movie, he wants to cure himself so he can live for his girlfriend, his hot girlfriend.
That's the most recent one. BJ and I watched 2 before we watched the one at the theater. We enjoyed the one at the theater. I did not enjoy 2 at all. I just thought it was a snoozer.
I love 1. I love 3. I'd have to see 2 again.
Yeah. I thought. Well, I think I gave my thoughts about it because Tommy hasn't seen it yet. Mike, have you seen it?
Nope.
Blah 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 blah.
Yeah, no spoilers. I think that it's I think that it's one of these you probably ought to see on the screen. I don't think it's a great movie, but I think you should see it on the screen because there's so many really great
big scenes.
Pieces. There's great pieces of it.
You want your full attention.
Yes, yeah.
That's the reason to see it in the theaters. You want to give it your full attention, and it's also.
But it absolutely does have a story.
Yes, and it has an epic scope that works on the big screen.
Yeah, I think the second one was all about the kid, wasn't it? I'm thinking about it. Yeah, that didn't work for me. That just didn't work for me.
Roland hates kids. Take note.
No, I don't hate kids. I like 2 of them.
All right.
Cassisi said, I feel like every sequel to Pitch Black was a solid character with a horrible story. I'm not familiar with that one.
I agree.
I agree with that too. No, that's on the money.
The first one.
Because it's a great character.
It's a neat idea. Yeah,
I think between the 4 of us, we could sit down and come up with something that would have been better than any of the sequels.
Let's see. Vavoom says some of the early Image superhero stuff. I agree with that. Yeah, not exactly no plot, but scant plot.
They were drawing comics to make money, is what they were doing.
I agree. I read a lot. Well, obviously, I read a lot of those early Image books, and the thing that I would always say is they looked great.
They look good, and it took you like 30 seconds to read the book.
They looked great.
Hey, do you think that today's crowdfunders are a great kind of a culprit? I mean, they're packaging. They're working so hard to package it, but they're not working on the story to make you want to get the next one. I mean, as far as the ones, there's been some really good ones I've supported. I've been very happy with. But if you look at the big picture, if you look through Kickstarter, if you look through Indiegogo, they look like great packages. But when you get them, you're kind of like, well, you wrap this as a way of selling it, but you forgot the one thing that's going to keep it selling, which
bring me back.
Bring me back.
Well, that's why.
Yeah,
that's why I like the crowdfunders that show interior pages.
Yes, me too.
You get like 3 or 4 pages in sequential order. So you can sort of, because I've gotten to the point where it's like, it looks great. It sounds great. It's a nice package. And I start to read those 4 pages in order. It's like,
right. Yeah.
Good luck to you.
I see you got 15 booby covers. That's really great.
Right.
Exactly.
Well, so this is something that Tommy and I talk about a lot is that we're in a day and age where anybody can make a comic. Exactly. Anybody can crowdfund. Anybody can, use a print on demand service. So it's not that hard to get a comic book made. And while I think that's a really good thing, it also has its drawbacks in that, we often get some of those that sound, somebody has a really great pitch or they pay a lot of money for this great cover and you go, wow, that sounds really cool. And then you get it and you read it and you go,
ooh,
I don't think this is what I thought this was.
I mean, like I said, there are some ones out there that are good.
Absolutely.
Put a lot of thought into, but I think the large majority of them are basically packaged to sell. They want a quick sale. They want something that can be put out there very quickly and make some money off of.
Yeah.
And then they're thinking that their followers or their artist followers or their whatever are going to pad their coffers. But again, I mean, I guess if that's your goal, I mean, I guess you can't complain against them. But if you're trying to keep an audience, if you're trying to gain an audience,
right?
That's the kind of the way I look at things. I mean, it's kind of like, if you're just doing it for small rewards and a very short-sighted, I guess that's fine. But once I get the first issue from a crowdfunder, and 4 or 5 months down the road, here's issue 2. It's like, that's okay, because issue 1's the reason I'm not getting issue 2.
Right.
Because that's your biggest selling point for me for an issue 2.
Well, that's
100%.
Yeah. So
subsequent issues are always a vote on the previous issue.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Let's see here. So Woodrow said, I do mean specific Deadpool comics. The movies have heart. Agent says, I like Deadpool 2 better than the third one. Yeah, not me. And then he says, mine are good. Here's a good. Baboom says, it depends on the crowdfunder. Those with solid writers on the team end up being great. I backed a crowdfunder from Mike Baron and Pat Broderick, a horror western that was excellent. So here's the only thing I would say about that. In kind of as it relates to this conversation, is that Mike Baron is a known entity. He's been working as a comic book writer since the 1980s. So you kind of know what you're getting with him, right? You're not really, and Pat Broderick too. All right. So these are two established professionals. You're not really, I mean, you are taking a chance, I guess, but these guys have delivered. They're professionals.
I mean, Mike Baron has this very specific point of view in his stories, and you know where that's going to go. And so, if that's the kind of thing that you like, if you're a fan of Nexus or whatever, or the Badger, he's gonna get the slack that Jimmy and Peter might not get.
Correct. And I think boom. That's kind of really what we're meaning here is not the seasoned established guys like Baron and Broderick, but we're kind of talking about the folks that you've never heard of before, and you see a crowdfunder up, and you're like, "Hey, I don't know who these people are." Even when you scroll down and look at their credits, right? I don't know who these people are, but the concept sounds cool, right?
Oh, that's why a lot of things like track record or personal recommendation or whatever really helps, because you wouldn't have started watching NCIS if it hadn't been for your wife.
Nope, I would not have.
And
I absolutely would not have. And that's actually one of the reasons too that I always tell folks that we are 100%. You may or may not like our comics, okay, but we are 100% fulfilled on time, and so if you backed, look, I've got a crowdfunder I backed in 2014. I'm still waiting on. 2014.
They're working on it, Roland.
That ain't coming, right?
Any minute now, Roland.
They have an update on the Kickstarter.
No,
page?
there hasn't been an update in probably over 5 or 6 years.
They're working on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, they saw you coming.
Yeah. So I think a lot of people understand crowdfunders are a bit of a gamble. I think there's a lot of people who will do a couple, and if they're burned, then they're out. Right? It's like, okay, I was burned in the stock market, I'm gone. Right. But that's why anytime I see someone posting on Twitter or Facebook or something like that, hey, I think I'm done with crowdfunders because I backed this one and it's been 6 months and I'm still waiting. I'll go and go, hey, Silverline is 100% on time, and we've done 30 campaigns. Give us a shot.
I don't know why anybody would just give up just because 1 or 2 Kickstarters that they invested in crapped out. It's like, I still go to Vegas and lose my shirt. So,
all right. Paige Alfred is chiming in here late. Something would have got us rolling an hour ago. Paige, says, character and plot is kind of the same thing. I think. I'm going to say no.
No.
I'm going to say no. Not even close. Yeah.
2 different things.
Yeah.
Because they have to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think they depend on one another, but they're 2 very different things. Agent says, was Rob Liefeld's Kickstarter? I don't know the answer to that. I'm not sure.
I believe he has a few late ones. Yes.
Does he?
Yes.
By several years.
Yes.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I don't know how you do a Kickstarter, get it funded, and then put out another one, get it funded, and still never.
Well, I know a guy that did that.
Unless there's a really good reason, how because I know several people that have done 2 or 3 of them. I think eventually Kickstarter won't let you do another one if
it's not fulfilled. Yeah,
right.
But the thing is, the thing for me is I want to see the comic.
Yeah, me too. Yeah,
I'm invested in it to for my $5 or $10 or whatever it is.
Right.
I did that because I want to see it.
Right.
And so, and if I was going to do a Kickstarter, it's because I want to make the thing.
Right. Yeah.
It's not some shell game or some kind of con where I want to take your $3,000 and run away.
Right.
I want to make a thing.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I think there certainly is that risk. Anyone who's considering backing crowdfunders, I think is certainly a risk. But like we talked about Baron and Broderick, I think if you pay enough attention, I think there's enough folks out there who, okay, this person has run multiple campaigns. They deliver what they say they're going to deliver. Those are the ones that I think you can feel better about. And Kickstarter, there's a little window there that tells you you can look at the creator, how many they've created and how many they've backed. I have me personally, I have a hesitancy to back any from someone who's never backed any. Right. Like I recently I saw some people pushing one and I'm like, oh, well, let me go look at this. I went there and it said, first created, none backed. Okay. Right. I get that everyone has a first created somewhere. Right. But you're going to tell me Kickstarter's been around all these years and you haven't backed a single campaign.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to hang on.
The thing that's weird to me though, is I get, if you're, like, I always look askance at somebody who's doing like a giant book and they want, they want $59.95 or whatever from me, or they've invented like a steam engine and they want, whatever. I get that and I won't do it, but I'm not going to complain if I invest in a $5 pledge,
right,
and the comic doesn't come. And I know this sounds like I'm a child of privilege, but $5 isn't really that big a deal for taking a chance on a thing that I kind of wanted to see.
Yeah.
I'm willing to lose several $5
in hopes that
I get something that I really like.
Yeah.
Because I've been in a situation where I got a graphic novel from the Sun Brothers, like pre-COVID. Like I want to say 5 years ago, but it's probably 8 years ago.
Yeah.
And I took a chance on it because I really liked the look of it, and it showed up, and I was just blown away. It's like it far exceeded any of my expectations, and I couldn't wait to read it. And I thought, that's what I want.
Those are fun, aren't they?
I want every.
Yeah.
I'm not going to get mad if they don't, but I really want every Kickstarter that comes into my door to knock me out.
Right. I think it's just like any regular reading or movies or that kind of thing. When you're paying your money. Right. You want the very best. You go to the movie. You don't go with the idea that I'm paying this $15 for an okay movie.
It sucks.
Yeah. I hope it's bad. It's like I'm paying money because I hope it's really good. I really want to enjoy it. I'm still kicking myself for not seeing the latest Apes movie on the big screen.
Right, because Apes seems like a movie you should see on the big screen.
Yes, absolutely. And Tom, you probably remember what an Apes fan I am. I'm like,
I remember.
How did I not go see that? How did I miss that on the big screen?
I'm going to shame you now on social media.
Yeah. Agent Koepp says $5. Man, you must be rich.
I'm willing to lose up to $25 a year.
Woohoo! Yeah. All right, gents. It looks like our clock has rolled right along as it always does when we are having fun. You guys,
so what's the answer? The answer to the question?
Yeah.
Character.
There
you go.
Yep. Character. Yep.
We have solved another problem
because the thing is, we all have favorite characters. We don't have favorite plots.
True.
That's right. Yeah, that's true.
And when we get together over drinks or dinner or whatever, we talk about our favorite characters.
Remember that
Not our
New York?
favorite
That
pop.
New York is a cool place. Yeah.
Yeah.
I wish they made more movies set in New York.
Yeah, I would like to see more movies where they solve murders.
Maybe in a building.
Right? Yeah. Kasisi says, "Great show. Have a good night."
You too.
Kasisi, thanks very much for
Kasisi.
us for hanging out with us. And yes, Kasisi, I do realize I still owe you an email. I haven't forgot about it. Here's my note right here. Right.
Yeah, we couldn't read that. That was the purpose. No.
All right. So any final thoughts, guys?
No.
All right then.
What's next week?
On Tuesday, finding comic communities. The gang discusses how comic creators can find communities to help them in their journey. Oh, that sounds really cool.
That does sound good.
Tim, TK, and the gang will do this on Tuesday. This is Tuesday at 8 p.m. Pacific time, which I think is like 11 our time, which is East Coast. And then on Wednesday, I think Kasisi actually might be hosting this one. Battle of the Silverline Baddies. Villain versus villain. Widowmaker, Mr. E, Dr. Fear, Hunter, Pistol, Nim, Dr. Mantis. Who will win the title of the baddest of the baddies? And that is Wednesday for the Wednesday Wham at 8 p.m.
That almost sounds like March Madness brackets.
It does. Oh, we should do some brackets. You know, the Ultraverse, they had a pretty cool little bracket thing that time.
Yeah.
The Ultraverse Facebook group. That was kind of cool.
Well, Olbrich did a Marvel movie villains and Marvel movie heroes. No, sorry, Marvel TV shows and movies, and then you worked your way in everything from the Incredible Hulk TV show down to Deadpool or whatever. And it was the most popular panel we've done at San Diego.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. You may have to. We might
70 people show up.
Wow. We may have to talk about that. See if you can't retool that for one of our.
I got a brackets template I can get.
Oh, very cool. Next Sunday, Tommy cannot be absent. We're going to talk about show no-nos, what not to do at a comic book convention.
Oh, there we go.
We've discussed strategies and things creators and sometimes fans should do at comic conventions. This time we're going to tackle comic show no-nos, things not to do at a comic convention.
Don't get the convention center tacos.
Right. Boom says, great topic. Thank you all. Quad V, that's what I'm going to call you, because boom.
Quad V.
Quad V, thanks for hanging out with us.
Are you writing that down in your notebook for characters?
Yeah, that's a great villain name.
It's a great villain name, I'm telling you.
Great. Quad V. Quad V. All right, well, you guys know what time it is.
Make mine
Silverline. Good night, everybody.
Hey, I'm G-Rod. Make mine Silverline. You heard me.